Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kikuyo. Thanks for joining me for meditation and sutra study. The title of this evening's Dharma talk is Overcoming Lust and Greed. This evening's practice will consist of 5 minutes of mindful breathing, a reading from Buddhist scripture, followed by a Dharma talk. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. So, we'll begin our 5 minutes of mindful breathing by first allowing you to get into a comfortable position. The only rules, again, are that you need to be comfortable. You also need to be in a position you can hold for at least 5 minutes without moving. If you'd like some instruction, what I like to do is sit cross-legged either on the floor or on a cushion. Back straight, chin slightly tucked. Eyes can be open or closed. If you want to have them open, that's fine. Just point them downwards at a 45-degree angle to eliminate distractions. Left hand goes in the lap, palm up. Right hand goes palm up over the left. And we'll begin our mindful breathing by doing exactly that. Breathing in and out through the nose. On every inhale, we extend the belly button slightly as if we just had a large meal. And we relax on the exhale. Breathing in this way engages the parasympathetic portion of our nervous system. Lets our body know that we're safe, and that we can relax. And as we breathe, we focus on the physical sensations, the feeling of our clothing against our skin, the feeling of air moving in and out of our nostrils. Now, as we continue breathing, we visualize a fire burning in our belly. This fire burns like a campfire in the woods, and it's our favorite color. If we like blue, the fire is blue. If we like red, the fire is red. This fire is located in the space behind our belly button, and it represents our own enlightened nature. Let's just watch it burn for a few moments. Wonderful. So we continue breathing in and out through the nose. We're now going to build on that fire in our belly. Visualizing ourselves with every inhale, breathing air into our lungs. With every exhale, we blow on the coals at the bottom of the fire, just like we would a campfire in the woods. Amplifying it, feeding it in oxygen, making our enlightened nature bigger and brighter with every breath. Great work. Now, in the final minute of our mindful breathing, we contemplate the fire in our belly, remembering that we can call upon it whenever we need to, whenever life becomes difficult. But for now, we allow the visualization to fade. And we come back into our bodies by rotating our head to the left and then to the right, feeling the physical sensations in our neck. Coming back to center, we rotate our shoulders forward and back. Feeling our clothing against our skin, feeling the stretch in the muscle. So finally, we let our shoulders hang gently towards the floor. And if our eyes are closed, we open them. Wonderful. Thanks so much for breathing with me tonight. This is different from what we've done in the past, so I'm interested in your feedback. If you enjoyed the mindful breathing, please leave a comment in the comment section. If you didn't enjoy it, also leave a comment in the comment section. For now, however, we'll move on to the scripture reading for tonight. We're reading from the Sutra on the Concentration of Sitting Meditation. This is a meditation manual, and it's wonderful because it really gives step-by-step instructions on how to use the practice of seated meditation to deal with greed, anger, ignorance, etc. Not necessary to have a copy of the text, but it's useful if you'd like to follow along. This evening's reading comes from page 10. I call it First, the Method of Curing Lust. A practitioner who has much lust practices the meditation on the impurities. From the feet to the hair, the whole body is filled with impurities. Head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, thin skin, thick skin, blood, flesh, tendons, vessels, bones, marrow, liver, lungs, heart, spleen, kidney, stomach, large intestine, small intestine, feces, urine, nasal mucus, saliva, sweat, tears, dirt, dust, pus, brain, placenta, gallbladder, water, thin skin, fat, and meningitis. These sorts of impurities are in the body. Further, the meditation on the impurities consists of the following 9 stages, namely the visualization of blue pus, swelling, bursting, shedding blood, besmearing of the blood, stinking pus, being devoured by scavengers but not completely consumed, scattering of the bones, scorched bones. Together, this is called the meditation on the impurities. Further, a lustful person has 7 types of attachments, namely attachment to pleasant colors, beautiful appearance, deportment, voices, smoothness of touch, people, or all of these. One of the questions I get asked quite a bit, it seems to be on a lot of people's minds these days, is what does Buddhism say about sex? What does it say about lustfulness? What does it say about the attraction between two people? And this is understandable. The sexual urge is extremely powerful in us. More than that, it's necessary for our reproduction as a species, so we need to know these things. And that's what I'll be discussing here today. Now, the first thing we need to understand is the Buddhist understanding of the sexual act differs based on whether we're talking about monastics or lay people. So I'll discuss monastics first. And for them, sex is very simple. Don't do it. Now, this isn't because sex is a bad thing or we're bad people because we have sexual urges. It's simply because in Buddhism we're taught that our suffering comes primarily from two things. One, the illusion of the separate self. We believe in the subject-object duality where we're here and other people are there and they only exist for our pleasure. Suffering also comes from our addiction to sense pleasures. We enjoy the things we taste, touch, hear, etc. so much that we can't see or even care about the consequences of our actions. Sex epitomizes both of these things. When we are looking for sexual partners, we are hyper-individualized. It's solely us here, them over there, what can they do for us? More than that, we are competing against other people for said partners. So it's an objectifying of ourselves. There's also an objectification of other people as well, which can be a cause of suffering. In addition to that, the sexual act involves all of our sense pleasures, our sight, our taste, our smell, etc. And as I've taught previously, the more of our senses are involved in a thing, generally, the more addictive it is. Because we are overwhelmed by sensory input and we can't think clearly. We see this in food. There's a reason when we're hungry we don't just open up a can of beans, grab a spoon, and go to town. Now, the beans in and of themselves are nourishing. But we don't just eat for nourishment. We want our senses to be involved. We want a plate of food to be put in front of us that looks beautiful. We want to smell it coming from the kitchen. We want the cling of silverware and conversation around us. And then when we taste it, we want interesting taste sensations and textures in our mouths. The more sensual pleasure associated with our food, the better. This is why we pay money and go to expensive restaurants instead of, again, just eating beans out of a can. And this isn't a bad thing in and of itself, but it's something we need to be aware of. So sex, because it involves so much sensory input, because it turns us into hyper-individuals, monastics choose to abstain from it. And they take all of that energy that they would put into searching for a sexual partner into their spiritual practice. They put it into their journey for enlightenment, using all of their physical, mental, and spiritual energy for that goal. So that works for monastics. What about people who aren't monks? What about people who don't live in temples? People who have wives and husbands and girlfriends and boyfriends and just live ordinary lives? Well, for lay people, we are not told to abstain from sex completely, though sometimes we may be told to do that if we're at a retreat, let's say, but that's only temporary. In day-to-day life, however, we're told that we should engage with the sexual act skillfully. Just like we do with food, just like we do with medicine or clothing or shelter, we use it in a way that does not cause harm for ourselves or others. Now, the Buddha gave many teachings on this topic, but to put it simply, in Buddhism we believe that sex should take place between two consenting adults within the confines of a monogamous relationship. So, hookup culture, adultery, one-night stands, pornography, these things are frowned upon in traditional Buddhist practice for a variety of reasons. Adultery, I think, is fairly self-explanatory. If you are cheating on your spouse or your partner, you're lying to them, you're lying to the person you're cheating with probably. There's a lot of suffering involved if they find out. It's not healthy, even outside of spiritual practice, but it certainly doesn't help you on the journey towards enlightenment. So being faithful to our partners is important in Buddhism. Hookup culture, one-night stands don't make you a bad person by any stretch of the imagination. However, There is a lot of suffering associated with that. Misunderstandings take place. Maybe one person thought we were just having fun. The other person thought this might lead to a relationship. So it's better to hold off until we really know the person and decide this is someone we want to spend time with. Because the bond that takes place through sex is very powerful, and we don't want to be physically bonded to someone that we're not also mentally and spiritually bonded to as well. So we build that mental and spiritual bond first, and we build the physical bond afterwards once we're in a monogamous relationship. And in the case of pornography, we may think, again, what's the big deal? These are two consenting adults being filmed and getting paid for it, and that's true enough, but when we look at that industry, the adult film industry, we find that it's a bit more complicated than that. Oftentimes, the people who are involved aren't treated very well in terms of getting rest breaks, in terms of the way they're treated by their producers or the staff. In addition to that, the people who are consenting to being filmed may only be consenting because they don't have much of another choice. In other words, they're part of a marginalized community, and as a result, this is one of the only ways they have to earn income. And that's not something that we want to support as Buddhists. And of course, if we're in a monogamous relationship, that sexual energy from the Buddhist perspective is something that should be shared with our partner, not with someone on a screen. And if we're not in a relationship, well, then ideally we could be celibate and put that mental, physical, spiritual energy towards our practice. So that's the Buddhist perspective on these things. Now, that said, how do we overcome lust? Well, first we need to understand that lust comes from greed, one of the three poisons: greed, anger, ignorance. And greed comes from desire. So the way we deal with desire is to think about the things that we don't desire, right? So if we're lusting after a person and we think they're so beautiful and so wonderful, well, instead of thinking about their hair or their skin or their smile, well, what if we think about the not so nice things about them? What if we think about their mucus? What if we think about their blood, their fingernails? Things that we don't desire after, that we don't lust after. If we do this, then that feeling of lust leaves our body. That's what the sutra is getting at, right? Because again, lust is a form of greed. We are greedy for things, in this case people, so we turn our attention instead to the things we're not greedy for. Now, that said, lust isn't just about sex. If it's a form of greed, then we can lust after many things. We can lust after money, we can lust after power, we can lust after status. And that lust, whatever we're lusting after, can and will lead to suffering. It keeps us and other people from enlightenment. So, in the same way that we might think about the impurities of a person that we're lusting after, the hair follicles, the dirt under the fingernails, etc., we might think about the impurities of the other thing we're lusting after. So maybe it costs too much. Maybe it's a hassle to maintain. Maybe we just know we'll get sick of it too quickly. Yeah, the commercial says I should get a new TV, but I just got this one and I haven't finished paying this off yet. Maybe I got it with a credit card, so another TV isn't something I want to deal with right now. And when we stop suffering as a result of our greed, as a result of our lust, we become more content with the things we already have. Now, this is important because we often assume that we'll be more happy if we have more stuff. A bigger house, a more expensive car, and a more impressive job. But what generally happens is these things don't make us happier, or the happiness only exists for a short time. A bigger house is harder to clean, an expensive car comes with more insurance, a more impressive job equals more hours that we have to work, and it takes time away from our hobbies. So if we get caught in this cycle of lust and greed, it can be helpful to think about the other side of the things we're greedy for. We think about the long hours associated with the promotion. We think about the insurance that comes with the expensive car, and suddenly I'm happy with what I have. Now, I've experienced this in my own life. Many years ago, I had what was my dream car. It was a Ford Mustang. And when I say it was my dream car, I literally wanted this for as long as I knew what cars were. Because when I grew up, I had a family member who I had a lot of respect for, and he owned a Ford Mustang, and I wanted to be like him. So once I get the money, once I'm successful, I'm going to get a Ford Mustang. And eventually, working in business, I gained that success. I saved up some money, I bought the car, and it was nice. It was fun to drive. People gave me the thumbs up when I was at stoplights, but it also came with problems. First off, it was a terror to park because I was so terrified that it would get scratched. So I'd have to park way off in a corner of the parking lot and walk long distances to get wherever I wanted to go. It also didn't do well with potholes. Sports cars tend to be very low to the ground. Where I lived at the time, the roads weren't very good, and every time I hit a pothole and I heard it just scrape the bottom of the car, it just sent shivers down my spine. And finally, the thing they don't tell you about Mustangs, or I assume any sports car, is that they don't do well on ice and snow. And I learned this the first winter I had the car, when I got really good at digging myself out of snow or getting people to help me push it out. The next winter I got snow tires for it, which was better because I could drive around safely, but I had nowhere to put my regular tires. So I have this tiny apartment, and I have these big car tires in the middle of my living room because I have nowhere else to put them. But that's what came with having this fancy car that I wanted so badly. Turns out a lot of problems came with the object of my lust, and when I got rid of the car, all of those problems went away. So when we meditate on impurities, the thing we're really doing is meditating on the other side of the issue. We don't just think about the thing we want, we think about the problems that come with the thing we want. And then suddenly we're happy with what we have. Amitabha. So that's the talk for today. I hope it was helpful. I'll just end with a few announcements. So this was Meditation and Sutra Study. It takes place every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, broadcast here at this channel. On Sundays, we do something a little less involved. It's me taking some topic from the news or pop culture and speaking on it from a Buddhist perspective. If there's some topic you'd like me to cover as part of Dharma Sunday, please leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to chat about it. So that's it for this evening. I hope to see you on Sunday or on Wednesday of next week. Amitabha.